Hello everyone, welcome back to Grey Brick Creations. Today I'm going to be showing you my process for embroidering a skull with some flowers on it. So my whole idea for this one was kind of to choose the same color fabric and the same color string, so it's kind of a monotone piece. So I started by picking this tannish beige fabric, and then I picked a similar tannish beige string to go with it. And then I'm also using a tan hoop for this one. Since this was a pretty large piece of fabric, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a circle that will fit in the hoop that I'm going to use. I wanted this piece to be a little smaller in general, so I decided to go with a 5-inch hoop. After cutting out this fabric, I'm going to go ahead and get it in the hoop, and then I'm going to get the pattern put on it. Now that this is all tightened up, I'm going to go ahead and get the pattern put on it. I did not take a video of this portion of my project, but you'll see the pattern here on it soon. I did not design this pattern or this picture. I just found it on Pinterest and thought it looked really neat, so I decided to use it. I find it's easiest if I put the material in and then put the hoop in and kind of draw the pattern like it's upside down, so that the fabric is like flat on my iPad when I'm tracing the pattern onto it. And then I pull the fabric out and put it back in the hoop like you normally would when you're embroidering something, with kind of the tight part on the top of the hoop. Alright, now it's time to actually start embroidering this piece. Like I said in the beginning, I picked a light tan color. The actual color number is 3864, and I picked it because it matches pretty closely with the fabric that I'm going to be embroidering onto in this video. I decided to start this piece by doing the outline of the skull just to give myself a good base outline of the shape, and I also decided to use 6 strands to start this out, just to make that main part of the skull kind of stand out with a thick outline. I went with the stem stitch to do the outline of the skull. I just felt like since it was kind of a round shape that it would look the cleanest and the smoothest to go around the big outside part of the skull. Honestly, I feel like since I started embroidering, stem stitch is probably the stitch that I've used most. I think it's probably just because it's like easiest to use and it looks nice, but I definitely like to try and branch out and start using some different stitches and see how some different stitches make my projects look. Also, here you can see my little kitty helper. Like I've said in my previous videos, he is aggressively helpful, especially when it comes to anything where I'm using string or tape or anything that he can bite and play with and pull out of my hands. Alright, that's enough goofing around with my kitty. Let's get back to stitching here. I think you guys pretty much got the gist of what it looked like for me stitching the skull, the main skull around the head. So I went ahead and just fast forwarded through a small section of that. And now I'm gonna move on to the next section of the skull. It did get a little challenging here at the end because my string started to get a little short, but I really didn't want to put a whole new string on just for like 3 or 4 stitches. So I just powered through. So after the main part of the skull, I decided to fill in some little details, like above the eyebrows, and I filled in the teeth as well with a satin stitch. Here you can kind of see an up close of the little details I added in using a back stitch, and then I used some French knots on the flowers up top. Next, I used a satin stitch to fill in the eyes, as well as a small section at the top of the skull and the nose piece. I feel like this all turned out really clean and looks really good. Next, I started working on the flowers at the top of the skull. They don't look super good right now, but I wanted to go ahead and get those filled in with a satin stitch as well. Lastly, I worked through the leaves and the outline of the flowers, but I'm not going to show you that finished product quite yet. I want to show you how I do the back first. Honestly, since I just started this hobby pretty recently, I haven't actually finished the back of one of my embroidery pieces quite yet. I usually just put some stitches in the fabric in the back and then pull it tight so that it's not hanging loose. On this one, I'm going to try something a little bit different. I am going to start with a running stitch around the outside of the material so that I can pull that tight, so like I said, it's not hanging loose. Here you can see I'm working on that running stitch. I'm definitely still perfecting this technique of finishing off the back of my projects. My favorite part is when I finally finish this up and I get to pull it tight and it just pulls everything in. It's just so satisfying. After I get this tied off and cut, I'm going to start the process of putting some felt on the back of this. Like I said, I've never done this portion before, but I saw it on Pinterest and I thought it looked really nice and clean when it was all done, so I'm going to give it a try. I started this process by just cutting out a small piece of felt that I picked, also that tannish color, just to keep that monotone theme going. I then used another hoop I had that was the same size to trace the size of the circle I thought I was going to need to cut out. I'm just using a standard pen to trace that out and then cut it. Alright, now that I have this circle, I'm just going to lay it on the back. Looks to me like it's going to fit pretty good. Then I'm going to take that same color string that I've been using for this whole project, that number 3864, and use it to do a buttonhole stitch around the edge of the felt, kind of tying it into the fabric below. Honestly, I thought this part of the process was going to be a lot easier than it actually was. I had watched someone else do it and they did it super fast and it looked super easy, and then I started doing it and I definitely had some challenges to it. I definitely need to practice more even stitches, and then it was also kind of hard to put the needle in, grab the fabric underneath the felt, and then get through the felt on the top of my stitch while keeping everything tight and in line. I also thought when I was stitching this in that it was going to be able to keep it tighter and keep like a tight flat surface on the felt, and it definitely wasn't. It was loose, and then like I said, my stitches were pretty uneven. Alright, here I am getting to the end of this back piece finally. Like I said, it took me a while, so I did kind of skip over that in the video. Just let you guys watch some of my process here, and then I went ahead and tied it off. Alright, so here you can see the finished back. Like I said, I would have liked to have covered the edges a little bit more, a little more even stitching, and had it be a little bit tighter. I guess all in all, it didn't turn out that bad. The last thing I added to this project was a little ribbon at the top. I wanted this to look kind of gothic, but also cute and feminine, so that's why I decided to add the bow. I also added a little loop so I could hang it up when I'm done with it. And here you can see the final finished product up close. Let me know what you guys think. If you like it, if you have suggestions on things I could have done differently, comment below and I'll take a look. Thanks for watching.